As a runner, plantar fasciitis at its best is a recurring nuisance, but at its worst can be a debilitating injury, relegating you to the bench, preventing you from chasing your goals, preventing you from training. But thankfully, I have a new tool to add to my toolbox that's been helping me get through my latest bout with plantar fasciitis, and that is the Alleviate Arch Massager. Cheers, y'all. How's it going? Ryan from I Run on Beer here. And as a runner, plantar fasciitis has been one of those injuries, one of those nagging injuries that seems to just come and go as it pleases, seems to pop up now and again, seemingly at random, although I have identified sort of a few characteristics that tend to lead to bouts with plantar fasciitis, similar with most overuse injuries, just increased mileage or increased intensity, doing too much too fast before you're really prepared for that workload. And the other indicator for me is when I'm spending too much time on my feet, especially if I'm in some sort of restrictive or uncomfortable footwear, like dress shoes, things like that. And those two variables tend to be some of the key indicators of when I might experience a flare-up with plantar fasciitis, and once it starts, it just seems to be one of those lingering injuries that tends to just last a while. Even though a lot of times I'm able to train through it, I'm able to continue running, it can be extremely painful, especially in the mornings, as anyone with plantar fasciitis can attest. It is particularly painful when you're first getting out of bed in the morning. As a morning runner, that's a big issue for me, and so I try a variety of at-home remedies, various heating and cold therapies, various kind of just like trying to knead out the fascia with my thumbs, the typical rice routine, rest, ice, compression, etc., elevation. But again, that just helps to sort of dull the pain and help get me through the recovery, but doesn't do anything to help me get through it any quicker or do anything to solve the overall problem. And that's where the new Alleviate Arch Massager really comes into play. Before I jump into a specific review of the product, just a quick disclosure to get out of the way. Alleviate did send me this product for the purpose of reviewing, so I did get this for free. But that being said, they are not influencing anything that I say here today. They're not reviewing the footage before it goes online. All reviews and feedback expressed here are purely my own. And I do have to say, I am truly appreciative. This could not have come at a better time. I have been experiencing one of the more severe bouts with plantar fasciitis I've had in quite a while, brought on likely by my speedy performance at the Hot Chocolate 15K, or what was supposed to be the Hot Chocolate 15K. Had a very strict, detailed race strategy going into that race that involved me not overdoing it, taking it easy, just easing my way back into road racing. But then because of some severe weather, they canceled the longer distance races. Ended up just running a 5K in the pouring rain and thought, you know what, I'm just doing 5K, I'm gonna go for it and run my heart out. And what that meant was pounding the pavement pretty substantially, pretty hard, putting in a much stronger effort than my feet were definitely prepared for, and have just been dealing with that lingering soreness afterwards, especially in the pads of my feet is where I've been feeling it the most. And again, it is just the absolute worst in the mornings, and my toes and that pad, like right where my toes flex, just so sore, so tender, until I start to kind of move around and work it out throughout the day. But that's why I'm so happy that I got this just in time, because it has helped me to really improve the quality of kind of the self massages that I've been doing and really work out that fascia, get the circulation going back in my feet again, especially first thing in the morning, so I can get up, get my feet loosened up, get myself feeling good so that I can continue training. So before, again, we jump into the specific, let's just talk a little bit about plantar fasciitis. What is it? Because I feel like it helps to understand what it is before diving into how you can address it with this tool. So basically, plantar fasciitis is, as it sounds, an issue with your plantar fascia, this thick band of tissue that runs all the way through the sole of your foot, through your arch, and connects the heel to the pads in the toe. And what tends to happen, again, from overuse, from pounding the pavement, from being on your feet too long, a variety of risk factors, you can strain that tissue, and constant strain can cause these little tears, and those tears can cause inflammation, which becomes excruciatingly painful. Most often felt in the heel, like right on the heel, and often is described as like especially when you're getting out of bed first thing in the morning, that first step, it's like stepping on broken glass. It's just this sharp shooting pain. obviously incredibly uncomfortable, makes it very difficult to go about your day-to-day activities. And so tons of people who are affected by this are constantly seeking out both immediate relief, but then also long-term solutions that can hopefully prevent it from coming back. And that is one of the key things that I want to focus on in this review of the Alleviate Arch Massager, is not just the focus on the immediate relief and trying to tend to that pain, that symptom of pain that you're feeling from the plantar fasciitis, but also addressing some of those endemic issues that might be causing the plantar fasciitis in the first place. So I'll touch on that in a minute, but let's talk about the pain management to start, or the pain treatment to start. That's really the primary goal of the Alleviate Arch Massager, is to basically offer this really at-home physical therapy treatment, the same treatment that you would receive from a physical therapist, but in a nice, compactly packaged device that allows you to do that treatment at home. If you've ever been to a physical therapist to seek treatment for any kind of tissue inflammation, you may have experienced this treatment. I know I certainly did when I was being treated for IT band issues, but it is basically using this tool called an instrument-assisted soft tissue mobilization tool. They come in a few different shapes, but most of which look almost like a really dull kind of butter knife, dull blade. And what it allows you to do is really just apply very targeted, acute pressure to specific areas of the tissue, to almost scrape out the tissue, to break up some of the scar tissue that develops during inflammation and during injury. So that tends to be a very common treatment for plantar fasciitis, but because of where plantar fasciitis is impacting you, where it lies on the bottom of your foot, with that kind of thin blade, it's hard to apply that pressure, apply that blade yourself to get a good enough grip on the tool to apply hard enough pressure on the bottoms of your foot in the right locations to really be effective. And so that was the goal of designing this. This was designed by a physical therapist, basically saying, one of the best treatments for plantar fasciitis is to just get one of those massages, one of those treatments twice a day for 3 to 5 minutes each time. There's no reason you should have to go into a physical therapist to receive that treatment. Ideally, you would be able to do it at home, and that's what led him to the design of this tool. So the two ridges, the two peaks on here, are designed to apply that same acute pressure that you would receive from that tool at the physical therapist's office. But obviously you don't have to hold on to this. You just put this on the ground and you're able to just put your body weight onto it to mimic the correct amount of pressure as you kind of drag it across the soles of your feet. So just talking about the design really quickly, in my experience, I really enjoyed just that you have two kind of options. And if you look at the top-down view, you can see this one much more acute, coming to like a specified point of impact. So when you're putting pressure on that, that's really digging into a very, very targeted area. Whereas this one's a little bit more rounded, a little bit more surface area. So it's spreading out that pressure across a wider area, less targeted, less, I won't say painful, but less uncomfortable. And I've sort of been using it like this is my warm-up. And then once I've identified some of the hot spots or the real sensitive areas, I'll go to this pointier piece to really address those issues, apply a little bit more pressure. And yes, it will certainly be uncomfortable, but ideally not unbearable. It's that, ooh, it hurts so good, where yes, it's uncomfortable in the moment, but you know that the relief that you're gonna feel afterwards is for sure worth it. Another thing just to point out of the design, a common massager, just a makeshift, very easy massager to use at home, is just to roll your foot out on a golf ball. You can see they textured this basically with the same kind of plastic dimples or plastic divots you would find on a golf ball, which I like because it gives you a little bit more traction, a little bit more friction as you kind of work this over some of the sensitive areas of your feet. But again, I like this obviously much more than a golf ball because you just can't get the same targeted massage as you would from a golf ball. And then the last piece I'll point out about the design, so obviously you can see it here, nice and compact, but when you're using it, a helpful feature is it has these kind of extendable feet on it that come out. It just allows it, gives you a little bit more traction on the ground. I tend to use this. You can use it standing or sitting. I like to use it when I'm just sitting on the couch in the morning. Again, first thing, I come out of the bedroom, open this thing up, set it in front of the couch and just sit down. And I feel like I just have more control over my motion. Again, not worried about having to balance while standing up or anything like that. You certainly feel it first thing in the morning. You can feel when you hit that pain area, when you hit the right spot, you are certainly aware of it. But the immediate relief afterwards, I just find it is an excellent excellent way to get immediate relief in the morning, which is a huge relief for me, so that I can just hit this for a few minutes and then lace up my running shoes and get out the door. Now I'm gonna set this off to the side for a second because I mentioned one of the big things that I love about the Alleviate Arch Massager, or the Alleviate company in general, is they provide this awesome tool that helps with the pain relief, the pain treatment, treating what the issue is in the moment. But they also want to address, again, what are those root causes? Why is this plantar fasciitis flaring up? What are the imbalances or issues that are happening in your legs, in your feet, that are causing this flare up? And so what I like is with any purchase of any of their recovery tools, you also get access to their arch exercise plan. And what that means is as soon as you make a purchase, you get invited to set up an account. As soon as you set up an account, they're gonna have you fill out a quick survey just talking about what type of pain you're experiencing, exactly where it is it left foot, is it right foot, is it both? When are you experiencing the most pain? Are there certain activities that are causing more pain than others, etc.? Walking through just what your lifestyle is, how it's impacted by the injury that you're experiencing. It takes that information and then spits out daily recommendations for exercises to address the pain immediately, to figure out what can we do to alleviate the pain in the moment, but then what are some exercises that we can do to work on your flexibility, particularly in the calves, in the Achilles, in that area, and then also strengthen some of those support muscles as well, because a lot of times, again, plantar fasciitis is often caused by just way too much tightness in that tissue that's under your foot. And part of that is being pulled by other muscles in the area. So if you have particularly tight arches, tight Achilles, tight calves, it's all pulling on one another, which is just gonna exacerbate some of those issues. So this program is there to address some of those root causes or secondary causes that are leading to, sure, the plantar fasciitis is the symptom, that's what's coming to light, that's the pain that you're experiencing, but there are likely underlying factors influencing that. So it's gonna work on stretching all of that out so that you're less likely to have those issues in the future, but then again, strengthening the arch, strengthening some of those support muscles, so when you're running, when you're on your feet day to day, those muscles are taking on the bulk of that strain as opposed to putting the stress on that plantar fascia. And again, I said it when I was talking about the design of the device, I just feel like you can very easily see that this company was developed by an experienced physical therapist, the goal being to allow you to have your own at-home physical therapy treatment, ideally without having to go into to see a physical therapist, just being able to do a lot of this work at home. I feel like it is a great first response as you start to experience any kind of plantar fasciitis or any kind of like foot or arch issues that you're experiencing. I think it's gonna provide that immediate pain relief, but then also gonna allow you to take advantage of that arch exercise program to hopefully fix the root causes of that pain that you might be experiencing. I know I talked through my experience a little bit already, but just to walk through my regimen again, I basically just keep this by the couch. My goal is to use it first thing when I wake up in the morning, and then also close to the last thing I do before I go to sleep at night. Just those two treatments, about 3 to 5 minutes each, doing that twice per day. And like I said, I tend to start with using this smaller ridge here as sort of the warm up, just gradually running my foot up and down across to loosen everything up a little bit when my arches are the most tender. And then as it starts to loosen up, then I'll kind of move up. I just like I don't know if you'd call it ergonomic shape of this, and it's just easy to transition from one to the other, using the ridges to kind of flex my toes, flex my feet, flex those arches, and then as I find those hot spots throughout that warm-up routine, taking advantage of this taller peak, more acute peak to really hone in on those particular hot spots, push the foot down a little bit, kind of slide it across those pain areas. Again, just breaking up some of that tissue and hopefully allowing some newer, healthier, fresher tissue to regenerate in its place. So it's tough first thing in the morning. It's certainly sensitive, but the immediate relief is so smooth, and again, just allows me to get out the door on the run and experience little to almost no pain at all, especially over the last couple days. I have certainly been recovering, I would say, much more quickly since I started using this. Sure, it's anecdotal. It could just be the natural progression of recovering from this, but I am just feeling exponentially better each day and hope to continue that trend and continue using the Alleviate Arch Massager as part of that recovery routine. But if you are interested in trying out the Alleviate Arch Massager, you can find it on their website. It retails at $60, but you can get 10% off with the discount code ALLEVIATETEN. Have the details and the link to that down below. If you suffer from more severe plantar fasciitis, I would also encourage you to check out some of their other products as well. They have a full suite of treatment options, again, ranging depending on just the severity of the plantar fasciitis you might be experiencing. But hopefully, if it works for you like it did for me, it'll just alleviate some of that immediate sensation, that immediate pain in the moment to allow you to continue training while also addressing some of those issues. So hopefully you won't experience as many flare-ups or any flare-ups in the future. But thank you as always for tuning in. I hope that you'll give this video a thumbs up to help other folks find it, or feel free to share it with anyone you may know who might be experiencing any kind of arch issues or plantar fasciitis. But thank you for tuning in, and until next time, I'll see you around. Cheers.